Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wrestlemania season. That means it's time to get ready for the most hyped and anticipated wrestling card of the year. Except this year's Wrestlemania has very little hype due to having one of the worst builds in history. But let's look on the bright side. At least we're getting Shane McMahon versus Braun Strowman because,
Braun is stupid.
But in all seriousness, in today's video, we'll be taking a look at 5 bold predictions that I believe will happen at WrestleMania. Before we get into today's video, make sure to like and subscribe with the notification bell on, as it would go a long way into helping to grow the channel. One of the saddest moments of last year's Mania is that Drew McIntyre's 12-year journey to the WWE title culminated in front of 0 fans. So you'd think Drew would get his crowning moment in front of fans this year, right? Wrong. I predict Bobby Lashley will defeat Drew McIntyre in the main event of Night 1, and I'll tell you why. Lashley has only just won the WWE title, and we can't forget about his 16-year journey also. Lashley went from doing this,
Kathy, Jessica, Francis, I love you,
and this, to being the hottest he's ever been in his career. So it doesn't make sense for him to drop the title when he hasn't had great defenses against guys like Randy Orton, Keith Lee, The Fiend, or even Brock Lesnar. Ever since Alexa Bliss has gone under the control of The Fiend, there's been an obvious change in her gimmick. We've seen fireballs, magic, and whatever that whole black goo thing with Randy Orton was about. But I predict that at WrestleMania 37, Bliss will reveal her new fiendish mask. Now there have been rumors of Bliss getting her own mask for weeks now, but for some odd reason, we haven't seen it on Raw yet. Well, what better time to reveal the mask than at WrestleMania? Speaking of The Fiend, we know he'll be battling Randy Orton in a grudge match that's been brewing for almost 5 years. And for that reason, I predict that Bray Wyatt won't just beat Randy Orton in a straight up wrestling match. The match will end with The Fiend destroying Randy Orton in crazy fashion. Now that could mean a multitude of different outcomes. Maybe the black goo will come into play, or maybe we'll get an explanation for the demon Randy Orton we saw on Raw. Well, I predict The Fiend will return the favor by setting Randy Orton on fire, getting payback for what happened at TLC, and riding the Viper off TV for months. On SmackDown, it was confirmed that YouTube star Logan Paul would be in Sami Zayn's corner for his WrestleMania match against Kevin Owens. But after the tension between Paul and Sami Zayn, I predict that Logan Paul will cost Sami Zayn his match. But that won't be all. Vince McMahon loves WrestleMania moments, so I also predict that Kevin Owens will nail Logan Paul with the stunner. WrestleMania Night 2 will be main evented by Edge versus Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan for the Universal Championship. I'm sure that Daniel Bryan would make a great babyface champion, and Roman Reigns has done a great job as the tribal chief, but I predict that Edge will leave Raymond James Stadium with the title. The story is just way too good to ignore. Edge wins the Royal Rumble after coming back from injury and then winning the Universal title 10 years later after he retired. Oh, but that's not all. Edge's recent change in attitude has been fueled by his need to regain the title he never lost. Only problem is, the Universal title was not around in 2011. That's why I also predict Edge's win will see the rated R superstar bring back the World Heavyweight Championship. But I hear you asking, why would WWE get rid of the Universal title? And to that I say, this is the Universal title, and this is the World Heavyweight title. Yeah, point proven.